Today on the Tiger Lacrosse Report, we'll preview the Tigers' games against the Johns Hopkins Blue Jays and the James Madison Dukes. Get ready, fans. The Tiger Lacrosse Report starts now. Hello again, Tiger fans, and welcome back to the Tiger Lacrosse Report. I'm your host, Ben Rosenbaum. Towson Tigers with two final games in the regular season left to go. First against Johns Hopkins on Wednesday, and then Saturday against James Madison, which will also wrap up CAA regular season play. As always, I'm joined by head coach Sonia LaMonica. And coach, this Hopkins game, it's in the middle or at the very end of your regular season. You drop it right in front of your senior day game, and you've done this before in the past. We've seen UConn, we saw Hopkins also recently in the past few years. Why do you like to have one more non-conference game before to just wrap things up?
I think we're just looking to have a competitive schedule, and sometimes the nature of where the schedules fit between teams when you're figuring out that schedule is what it is. I think it's great though to be able to place a great team towards the back end of our schedule, and Hopkins is just an outstanding program. It's always been a tough challenge, a tough test, and always a great game. So I think that sort of plays well into sort of our lead in here, the end of our season play, and just to find ways to continue to help our team get better. And this is going to be a critical game here Wednesday and a great test for us.
So you head over to Homewood Field to take on the Blue Jays, and they're a good team. They're ranked. They're led by Abello and Maggie Schneiderith. It'll be your third Schneiderith of the year.
Yes.
Just offensively, I mean, it kind of runs through the two of them primarily. They have other weapons. What's going to be important when you face off defensively from the Blue Jays? Yeah,
look, we're going to have to play crisp and anticipate well on our defense. I've said before, Hopkins, they're highly skilled. They move the ball very well, fast, and we're going to have to move faster than them. That's a phrase our defensive coach says a lot. We need to move faster than them. That's going to be important, and that we're ready to force Hopkins to some bad angle shots. I mean, they're going to get shots off, and we want to make sure that they're not great angles because they're great finishes. So that's going to be critical in terms of stulting their offense. It's going to take a great team effort.
When you're coming off a game against Hofstra where the offense, if you take away Carly's production, really struggled, is there any fear of a hangover, or that they're still trying to figure that out on what that problem was, or did you just run into a good defense against Hofstra?
I think Hofstra played great defense. I do. They were disciplined. They played good body. I think their goalie had some outstanding saves. But I think there are things that we can do better. And I think you go throughout the season, you have your ups and downs. You're never going to have a perfect game. There are some things that were looking really good. Some of our settled offense was developing well from what we've been working on throughout the season. But finishing, it was a little uncharacteristic. But we're not going to lose too much sleep over it. We just need to make sure that we're stepping into the game and that we're ready to go hard and we're focused and dialed in. I think a lot of it is a bit mental.
So then we head over to Saturday, and this is a big one. It's a big game. There's no hiding from that. Taking on the also undefeated in CAA play James Madison Dukes, and it's for the CAA regular season championship and the number one seed in the tournament. We've talked about before, sometimes you don't want them to make it more than what it is in just a game, but then other times you do want them to kind of get up for it. How are you approaching this game? Because it's potentially a championship matchup.
I think I more have to keep them just sort of grounded and focused on, it is another game. We can't get too caught up in all the uncontrollables, because they're going to be ready and up for this game no matter what. I mean, there's no question. JMU, Towson, great rivalry, always a great battle. Two teams that, have gritted it out in the past, and, I have no doubt that this weekend will be any different. These are two great programs that are doing extremely well, particularly this season. And I think it's just great for lacrosse in general, for two top top 10 teams having a showdown that's going to determine the top seeding into the conference. It's exciting. So I think if anything, it's just, it's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting, and our team's going to be definitely amped up regardless of what I say. Right.
You mentioned the top 10 matchup. Obviously, Towson ranked 8th and JMU as high as 4. Mm-hmm. It's interesting though because the teams are pretty even on paper. Yeah. If you want to look at the tape, they just played Hofstra a couple days after we did, and they only beat them by 5. It still took them 15 goals to get rid of Hofstra.
Sure.
So it's closer than people might think from the outside looking in. Gaudian's obviously very talented. Romsburg's talented. They have a lot of weapons. Where do you see any weaknesses in JMU? Do you know where you want to target? That you want to say on camera?
Not necessarily on camera, but no. I think that again, we can anticipate, a tough battle on the draws. I think we've got to be ready to compete hard on the draws because we don't want to give up possession after possession after possession. For Hopkins, they certainly have an outstanding offense, but I do think both teams are very balanced from top to bottom. I think there'll be some areas that, we'll try and work to find an edge in, but at the end of the day, we just have to come out and be prepared to, play at our best, to, continue to get better, to keep getting better, and, and be prepared for, whatever may come. We've just got to be able to respond and move on to the next play, whatever happens, and play a full 60 minutes. So, in terms of weaknesses for JMU, they don't have a ton of them, I'll be honest. I think they're an outstanding team. But all teams, have the capacity to, maybe let up mentally, depending on what's at stake. And we've got to be mentally strong, no matter what the situation is. And that's, I think, what will prevail, is a team that's mentally strongest.
All right. Should be a good one, and we hope to see you here at Johnny Unitas Stadium. So 2 games on taps for the Tigers this week. First on Wednesday at 4 o'clock against Johns Hopkins at Homewood Field. I'll have that call starting at 3:45. And then on Saturday, also senior day for the Tigers, as the Towson will celebrate their outgoing seniors. That game starting at 2 o'clock. That game will be available on LSN, but I will still have the call along with Sam Brookhart starting at 1:45. So that'll do it for us today on the Tiger Lacrosse Report. For head coach Sonia LaMonica, I'm Ben Rosenbaum. Thanks for joining us, and as always, go Tigers.